Fantasy basketball. Name codes are here. Dustin right here. This is your small forwards tiers and rankings. Don't forget about all our other tiers and rankings, sleepers, busts, all that good jazz. And we got a bunch of posts on the site, questions in the forums.
Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Advice. Tier 1's got the best two players in basketball and fantasy basketball. That's Kevin Durant, LeBron James, 1A, 1B. You know, these guys are really, really close, obviously. LeBron's great. He's a point guard / power forward kind of stats. So you get the assists, you get the boards. Durant's great because he scores a ton of points. He increased his assists last year. And we also love the fact, well, we don't love this fact, but the fact that Westbrook is going to be out to December is going to have him get off to a crazy start in terms of scoring. So, again, we have Kevin Durant 1, LeBron 2, but they're really 1A, 1B.
And tier 2 in my mind is really 2A and 2B with Carmelo and Paul George. I mean, Carmelo, obviously you're going to get more points, but Paul George does a little bit more as far as some of the other stats. And I think we don't really know what Paul George's ceiling is just yet. So, obviously, you got to love both those guys as well.
All right, tier 3, going to start off with Batum. And you got to love Batum for fantasy purposes because he does it all. He gets points. He knocks down threes. He gets boards. He does assists, a steal, a block. Stat sheet filled up. Batum's great for any fantasy team. Also want to talk about Josh Smith here. He's now with Detroit. Going to be playing the 3. They're going to have a monster lineup in the front court. But the thing that's in that little side note about Josh Smith that's interesting is he's been in Atlanta his whole life. AAU ball there, college ball there, pro ball there. Now he's at a new home in Detroit. I don't know if that's going to help or hurt him, but regardless, Josh Smith gets a lot of rebounds and a lot of blocks, and that's good for fantasy teams.
Tier 4, the first guy I want to talk about, Jeff Green. I've always been a fan of him, even back in Georgetown. But here's the thing with Boston and that new-look Boston team. Someone's got to score out there. And Jeff Green, I think, is going to be the guy that steps up the most and has the biggest improvement from year to year. I really like Jeff Green, first guy in tier 4 for us. And then Thaddeus Young's another guy I wanted to talk about and just really highlight what he did last year. You know, he had a few years where he was just good. But last year he took a big step into kind of, making himself, a guy that you look at in the early middle rounds rather than the late middle rounds. So he's a guy that I think could certainly do it again this year.
All right, tier 5, got 3 guys here on touch base. The first one's Andre Iguodala. He's now with the Golden State Warriors, and that might actually end up hurting him a little bit because you got Steph Curry, you got Klay Thompson there, you got Harrison Barnes. So it's definitely a little bit crowded, but you know what you're getting with Iggy. He's going to be filling up the stat sheet when he does get to play, when he is on the court. Then we got Mo Harkless with the Orlando Magic. Really like this guy. He really came into his own towards the end of last year. Think of him as a really, really poor man, Nicholas Batum, that doesn't get assists, but maybe has upside to do that. Regardless, at this point in the draft, you're looking for guys with upside. We'd rather take young with upside than old and boring. He's an upside kind of guy.
Tier 6, first guy I want to talk about, Earl Clark. I'm a big fan of Earl Clark. I think he's got a big opportunity to do something with Cleveland. When you look at the bigs on that team, there's a lot of talent there, but I think they're going to move him down to small forward and let him play a lot of minutes. They're already talking about how they like his defensive presence. So look for Earl Clark to have a great opportunity on Cleveland to show us what he can do.
He loves him.
I do love Earl Clark.
We fought about it. He wanted him at 4.
No, that's not even true. And then Gallinari is the next guy at 22. Obviously, he has potential of being way higher in these rankings if he wasn't hurt right now. But, they're saying probably end of December before he comes back. So if you draft Gallinari, just be ready to wait him out. But he will be back this season.
All right, tier 7. If you watched our point guard video, I talked about Wall. If you watched our shooting guard video, I talked about Beal. So I'm going to round it out.
At all
I
here.
love my Bullets. Making the playoffs, for the love of God. Going to talk about Otto Porter here, the 3rd overall pick. The big thing on him is he is the most NBA-ready rookie in the draft, which, I can see it. He played very well in the Summer League. That's why I really like him. He's going to get a decent amount of points. He has a nice shot. He's going to get you the defensive stats as well, and a decent amount of rebounds, I feel, out of the small forward position. So, overall, again, young with upside, I kind of like him at that point. Next, Nick Young. I'm not talking about him because he's a former Bullet. I'm talking about him because he's on the Los Angeles Lakers now. With Kobe hurt, they kind of have him penciled in the small forward, which we found was a little odd. He's really a 2 in our mind. But regardless, until Kobe comes back, He's going to play a ton of minutes, and Nick Young is not bashful about shooting the ball, so he should be, at all. So he should be getting some threes for you, getting some scoring.
Tier 8, Brent's already mentioned a couple of times in this video that we like Young with upside and not old and boring and this close from being washed up. But that's what all of this tier is pretty much for the most part. So, you get to this point in the draft, these guys need to get drafted, but just obviously know what you're drafting.
But these guys normally get overdrafted, I feel, because of the names.
They typically do. So, but they still do have value. They're still going to get minutes, and if you guess right as far as which one could stay healthy, you're going to get a guy that gives you decent value late in the draft.
So that's it. Watch all our other videos. Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Advice. Subscribe. Hit a thumbs up, please. Nico, Dustin, Penflip. We'll come back at you for the next one.
Yes.
Got it the second time.